always tried doing a joke for like a year. I kept trying to make this joke work about how type 2 diabetes is the only disease that you have that you can just, once you have it, you can just decide not to have it anymore.
Yeah.
There are other diseases that there are cures for. Diabetes, type 2, obviously type 1 is terrible, but type 2 is the type where you get it and you can just be like, nah, and just change your lifestyle and not have it anymore. And there are still people who are just like, all right, so how do I just take the medicine then and just keep
honest question.
Do I inject every day? Or?
Can you really undo type 2?
Absolutely,
like all the
lung
time? I thought once you, I'm sorry, Taylor. I thought once you got diabetes, you kind of had it, and it's like, you broke that seal, and now it's broken. No, not at all.
You can fix it.
Like Woody, you are Woody is you are right in a way. There is a level of type 2 that once you break that upper seal, you can't go back. But I think what Steve's saying is like more commonly there's a level of type 2 where they're like, oh my God, like you're eating so much sugar, you're so overweight. Either you lose weight and you eat better, or this is your new life.
Yeah. I know my grandmother like reversed her diabetes.
Yeah, that's common if you catch it early and you start acting immediately.
You really got to ask yourself, how much do I like my foot?
Yeah.
How important is this to me?
Almost as much as sugar.
Yeah.
Well, I know I hate walking, and that's all I use it for.
I'm a big fan of Jaeger.
That's actually where the nickname Sugarfoot comes from. It's originally
Sugarfoots. Good ass barbecue place. I don't know if that's everywhere.
Peggy Sugarfoots. It's delicious.
Peggy Sugarfoots.
Yeah, it's a great restaurant.
It's so weird that there are people, and I understand like that part of the joke I tried to do was because I would talk about it, and immediately you get in trouble because you're mocking fat people and how dare you. And one of the points I tried to make with it was that like if yours is that you come from a background where you're undereducated, you're poor, you didn't have the money to eat healthy, I get why you got there. But you now know that you can get out of it and you're choosing not to. Like that was the point, and I was trying to use humor to make the point, but it was the point that was pissing people off. It wasn't even the jokes.
Is there anyone in America that's like getting a Whopper and blown away that it's bad for them at this point, though?
It's a lot of protein.
Everybody knows.
You can get it without.
It's really not that much protein. Look at the ratio, the calories to protein ratio. Horrific.
I do like
eat a
Whopper,
Slim Jim if you want a better ratio than that.
Oof.
When Super Size Me first came out, I understand that we like didn't know a lot of that shit. It became so common, such common knowledge, and we're okay with it. The bit that did work that I would do was about how like we changed so much because of 9/11, and yet 3,000 people died in 9/11, 600,000 people are killed by heart disease, and we'll go through airport security. And as soon as we give up all those freedoms going through airport security, we'll take a left and go into McDonald's. We just don't want to die randomly.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Like if they were flying heart disease planes into McDonald's around the country, you would see a plummeting of sales.
They didn't take the towers down with cholesterol, all right?
No,
I'm going to take my
chances. Their HDL is too high. That's what they had to
I haven't had a Whopper in so long. I want one right now.
Not me.
I don't like.
I know Woody hates them.
Yeah, I
get a fixed Tower 7 with a bypass.
Burger King has like an aftertaste or like a coating or something. You like it. Some people
that's the best part. I love the taste, whatever that is. It's that they flame broil those things. I know that. That's probably it.
Yeah,
that like the Burger King burgers taste different than any other burger. They've got this like smoky kind of taste. I love that. It's my favorite part. They're better than other burgers. That like of the fast food burgers, Burger King is one of my favorite ones.
Let's do a round table on that. Steve and Taylor, what's your fast food burger? And you can't choose Five Guys. That's cheating.
No, you're right. There's no drive-thru. If there's no drive-thru, you can't choose it. There has to be a drive-thru.
Okay, no drive-thru, then In-N-Out.
Okay.
Honestly, the one I like the most, and they're closing up all over the place, are Steak and Shake. Like I love a good Steak and Shake burger. Especially, I usually get a Frisco melt, just a couple of fucking hard pressed right on that flat grill top, and then they douse it in Thousand Island. They got a bunch of cheese slices in there. Oh, it's so good. I fucking love Steak.
Taylor, that is the highest calorie food item on the menu at Steak and Shake.
Look at my body.
I was like I haven't
They wolf down 3 of those on a whim.
the bun. If you took the bun of the Frisco melt from Steak and Shake, and
There's so much butter on it.
There's so much butter. It's juicy.
You could bring it out.
It's juicy. And that Thousand Island cheese sauce that they put on there is incredible. But even when you're driving up to a restaurant, me anyway, if I pull up to a restaurant called Steak and Shake, which is referring to their 80 milkshakes that they make.
Oh yeah.
And I look at that and I'm just like, I'm just gonna get the hot dog.
I have a dumb question. Is Steak and Shake at all related to Cookout?
No,
they seem the same.
No, they're not the same.
Different company. I thought Steak and Shake was all over the South. Do you not have Steak and Shake?
Yeah,
Woody?
really.
We have Cookout here, and so I don't know Steak and Shake. I can't say it's better, but Cookout sounds the same to me. They also have, I don't know, 30, 80 milkshakes. Like it's
they
crazy.
have an entire board just for the milkshakes.
Yeah, it's next level.
So it was always the worst.
I want to go home.
I always had the worst
shitty.
drug dealers. Oh, they were the worst. That one guy, I'd go to his house and we'd be down in his basement where he had all of his plants, and all these degenerates would be hanging around to get free weed, pretending like they're his friends. And I just want to buy and leave. And they're just all such losers. They're just the worst kinds of people. That's where I had that conversation where we're out back, like smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, someone brought up methamphetamine, like randomly. And I was like, meth, not even once. Am I right? And they went, well, I've tried it a few times. And I was like, fuck. And the other guy goes, yeah, I like to get a little crispy every now and then. And I was just like,
a little crispy.
Well, it's my cute off and run away. So
you need a spiel, Kyle.
I'm more into.
You need to hit your drug dealer and be like, I need 1 ounce Alaskan Purple Dragon Slayer. Faster is better.
You would expect that to be a thing, but
you can't do it that same way.
Treat him like a barber.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
He would be like, I tell him what I wanted, and he'd be like, all right, let me go bag it up. And it'd take him like 20 minutes while he had a whole conversation with me, telling me stories, depressing stories. He never had bags. He always had to like make these bootleg bags out of like plastic wrap and a soldering gun. and I'm not even kidding.
Oh, did he ever use the cellophane off of a cigarette container and then solder that
I
closed?
would buy in such quantities that wouldn't work, but I have purchased weed where it was in the cellophane of a cigarette, like the cellophane that comes off of a packet of cigarettes, and then they put it in there, roll up, and then melt the top, and it's just like, this is some ghetto shit, boys.
They just give it to him in like a Kroger shopping bag.
Yeah, I buy at least an ounce at a time. Like if I'm buying
I remember
less
I was in a college drought of needing it or wanting some pot when I was like a sophomore in college, and it was like, who am I going to go to? And someone was like, hey, this guy, he kind of is weird, but he'll do. And I was like, all right. So I went over there and I was going to buy some, and this happened like twice. And this guy would like pillory you with offers of playing Street Fighter. The entire time you were just trying to buy drugs and go home. And so I would have to play him in Street Fighter in 2 or 3 fights and get absolutely manhandled by him because I didn't know the buttons. I didn't know how to play Street Fighter. But every time you go over there, you sit down, and before he goes to grab the goods, he wants to fucking play Street Fighter. And so you play a couple games of Street Fighter with him, you get railroaded, and you just have to be like, all right, man, well, can I just have the weed now? Like,
that's what they should have done.
Get that for me?
Anti-drug commercials. Fuck this whole like, oh, and then you play with your gun and accidentally shoot yourself. Oh, your dog talks. They should have just been like, look at the fucking degenerate you're gonna have to talk to for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, if you buy drugs, you're gonna have to go to this guy's house. Like, that's the best anti-drug commercial you could possibly do.
That is a real good one. It's like, it would just be a photo of a white guy with dreadlocks and a tie-dye shirt and black sweatpants on. It would be, do you want to talk to him for 2 hours? Then don't do drugs.
They were the most depressing parts of my week when I would go see this guy. And he was like a friend of a friend of a friend. Like he was so far disconnected from like my little social group. He was just such... All right, usually when you call somebody a loser, what you mean is like they're bad at life, and they like through things they've done to themselves. This guy had loserdom thrust upon him, though, like through a series of unfortunate events. I've told the story before, but like there was this one like 9-month to 12-month period where he kept being seriously injured and mangled, like while just trying to work a job and provide for a family. That's what had driven him to selling marijuana and driving a long haul truck. Was he just kept getting injured severely through no real fault of his own. Like he was in this construction job.
KFC.
He worked construction, and they were putting like a tin roof on a house, and he was on top, and there's a guy on the bottom pushing this big sheet of tin toward him. The guy on the bottom was all fucked up on meth and like got too aggressive, and the guy is holding a sheet of tin at the top, and the guy at the bottom shoves it so hard that he cuts a bunch of the tendons in my boy's hand and like cripples his hand. They've got to go in and like reattach tendons. Well, now he can't use his right hand for like months as a construction worker.
He doesn't get like $1 million for that.
No.
If you look up how much people like that get from the government on injuries, it's depressing. It's like, oh, you lose an eye? Yeah, we'll throw you $50K.
Like a
so,
company, or
but what about after?
No,
I feel like Steve is like, what?
I need my eye.
You hire an attorney. You don't get it from the government.
No,
you get it from the company. You know.
This is like Billy Bob's construction company. Like
all the TV attorneys salivate over cases like that.
Well,
like
no. So now he's got a crippled right hand that's going to take months to recover. Well, he's like, hey, I'm pretty good with my left. Let's keep fucking working. I'm a man. I provide for my family. So they're like, he's at a different construction job in like a sub basement where they're hammering rebar into like mostly dry concrete. Like it's wet enough that you can hammer rebar into it, but it's dry enough that that's still an effort. And I don't know if a chip of steel came off the hammer or the rebar, but hammers are this like really tempered steel. And when a chip comes off of a hammer, it has this shocking amount of velocity to it because they're not supposed to chip. So if they have chipped, it's deceptively extreme in nature. And so a chip of hardened steel comes off this hammer and hits him in the chest, a small piece, like really small. And he's like, oh, that hurt. And his buddy goes, what? And looks over at him. He's like, dude, what happened? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, have you been shot? And he looks down, and his chest is covered in blood, and it's running down his leg now because this thing has gone so deeply into his chest that the ER thinks it's a gunshot wound. And they think he's lying about a gunshot wound to get out of some sort of trouble. They're like, you can tell us if this is gang-related or something. Like you can say it was an accident. We just need to know what kind of firearm it was. And he's like, I was swinging a hammer at work. And they're like, sure you were. So finally, I don't even think they got the chip out. I don't think they could get it out. So they just patch him back up. And so now he's got this chip of steel in a not so healthy spot inside his chest now. He's like, well, my troubles have to be behind me. I need something. I need a recreational vehicle. I'd love to just have some fun in my spare time while I'm on workman's compensation. I'd like to get a four-wheeler, an ATV. So he goes to this guy's house to buy a used ATV on the cheap. And he's in the guy's backyard. The sun's going down. It's getting pretty dark. And he's got one hand, his bad hand, operating the throttle. Rum, rum, rum. And his left hand, he's sort of got like swaying by his side, hanging loosely. Unbeknownst to him, someone has taken the cover off of the chain of the ATV. And it's a manual. So the chain is spinning back there until you hit the clutch and put her in gear. So it's just spinning. His hand goes into the chain and gets drug into the sprocket. It cuts off one finger. It cuts the tip off another, and it mangles the third. So now his left hand is crippled. His right hand is crippled, and his chest is all bandaged up. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to sell some weed. I'm just going to sell some weed. Can't nobody hurt me if I'm in my basement watering my weed plants. Well,
did he grow it?
He grew it. Yeah,
How's he even pulling the trigger on the spritzer bottle?
I'll get the electric spritzer and
The electric spritzer.
yin, 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 yin. Nothing bad can happen to me as long as I'm here. I'll drive my big rig. I'll provide for my wife and child. So I've been going to him for a few months now, and I feel awful for him. So I always buy a little extra. Like I pay him well. Like he's like, yeah, it's $2.90 for an ounce. And I'm like, here's $300. You know, I'm the good guy. Here's your $10 tip or whatever. But I'll try to I had these long, awful conversations with him about how awful his life is. And he's always giving me discounts on stuff and asking my advice on various aspects of his life. Well, one time he wasn't there, but his wife was. And I went to the door and I'm like, hey, Bill told me to come by. He said I could get some, and I'm not sure how in the know she is about his whole weed industry. So I thought I could get a little pot from him, and she's like, how much you want? And I'm like, ounce and a half. Yeah, call it 375. Let's do 400. She's like, whatever. She comes back, big ass bag of weed. So I already knew that she was kind of a shitty person. She just seemed a little rude, or maybe she was annoyed, didn't want to be a pot salesman. I can understand that for sure too. But I'm a nice guy. I'm not showing up all weird. I find out she's been cheating on him the whole time while he's gone in his fucking big rig. The reason she was annoyed with me is because she had a dude showing up pretty soon, and she needed all the witnesses out of there because his weed sales were cramping her style. Because she's only got so much time, because she's got to send her kid to her parents' house. She's got to arrange this boyfriend to come over while her husband is away and hide the boyfriend from his weed clientele. Friends, in quotation marks. And
they used to have a better marriage, but her big thing was getting fingered. And
it was the most depressing shit ever. He lost the house. He lost her. She took
his fingers.
He lost the truck, everything.
He lost the truck?
He lost it all. He was making payments on it, like most of those guys are. They don't own those trucks outright.
Losing the truck is a big deal. Like it's their job, it's their house, it's their
dude. He took the cab off of it and lived in it by the end.
I was
the ultimate cucking.
I was on the road with a comic who was like super into pot, and he flew in for the gig, and so he had to like find some, and it's pretty easy at a show. You just talk about it on stage, and then people come up to you afterward. And so that's what he did. And then, we had adjoining rooms at the hotel, and he gets back. It's like 2 a.m. and he'll come back, and I'm like, where the fuck were you? He's like, I just one of these folks' house and got some pot. I was like, it was 3 hours ago. He's like, yeah. It turned out they wanted to talk, and it was just like this 60-year-old couple who just wanted to talk to him about comedy, and like he couldn't get out of there. And I was like, this is the most scared straight program I've ever heard.
Yeah.
The idea that you might end up in some it's not even about going, you had to go to a dangerous neighborhood to get your drugs. Like, no, you had to go to some suburban people and just listen to them for 3 fucking hours. Like, that's
even if free pot, I imagine, sucks, right? Like, here's the scenario I'm inventing in my head. Ooh, Steve talks about pot on stage. Steve likes pot. Steve, you want to hang out with me and my 3 buddies? We're going to smoke up. You probably think, ooh, that sounds fun. Then me and my 3 buddies, who have no personality to offer to this situation, say, Steve, private performance, please. Be funny. Now you're on stage again. Earn your tokes.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Woody.
What happens?
There was a guy in your chat last night. I tuned in for like a few minutes and watched live when you were talking to Wings. It was when you just had started talking to him. And no, I actually saw this watching the video after the fact. Somebody was like, I guess you brought up weed or something, or I noticed there was a notepad on your desktop that said something about weed.
They give me donations, and so that I don't forget to respond to them, and they'll easily ask questions. I take notes and come back to them.
But I just remember somebody was like, yeah, come to Colorado, Woody. I'll smoke you out. And I'm thinking, like, do they not know this man? Like, would this man really travel to another state and hang out with a stranger to save $10. Like Woody's cheap, but he's not insane.
Oh, that exact thing is like, look, okay, like that sword is a gorgeous gift, and I very much appreciate that. But I can't tell you how many times someone has messaged me, been like, hey, if you're ever passing through city you probably will never go to, man, you can stay on my couch. And I'm like, how? No. Look, first year I was on the road, absolutely. 18 years ago, that was for sure what I did because I had to. But the idea that like as an adult, I'm still looking to fucking couch surf, like or even like the idea of like, oh man, come over, I'll cook you dinner. And I'm like, I'd rather just pay for a meal because half the time it's going to be a lovely conversation from a wonderful person, but I'm not willing to roll that dice. I am not willing for the other half the time. And look, one of my favorite memories on the road.
Welcome to my house.
Yeah, one of my
Would
favorite
you like to see my
memories
mod collection?
I was
I'd fuck me.
It was my second year on the road, and it was a shit gig in Florida. And this old couple comes over and just says, "Hey, you guys probably don't get to eat many home cooked meals on the road. You know, we'd be happy to have you over for dinner." And we were torn about it, but we're like, you know what? We were broke, and we're like, yeah. So we went over. And because I talked about being a baseball fan on stage, they had like the local high school baseball coach. They invited him over. He had like coached some future major leaguers. Yeah, this was a guy who had a couple of previous people he coached make the majors. And like it was a lovely conversation.
So you want to talk to him?
Yeah, it was wonderful. And what I'm saying
like he
is,
did, but I'm shocked.
The odds of that are so fucking low. Like like when someone wants you to come over, it is mainly they just want to be near someone who has people watching them. And then they want you to entertain them in person the way, or they want to be like, you know, secret best friends or whatever it is. Like, it's just, I'm not willing to roll that dice. You
know what? I get it in the form of like, hey, Woody, I'm watching your videos. You seem really cool. Let's have a beer. And it's like, all right, a couple things here. One, I'm rolling the dice on hanging out with a stranger, which I don't really need to do. Two, I have to drink beer the whole time. Like, this just fucking sounds awful to me. You don't know me at all.
Clearly,
if you think that's a good time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, like that's
I get that. I get that from people being like, "Oh, I'm such a huge fan. I'd love to buy you a beer." I'm like, I've been sober for 16 years, and I talk about it a lot. How big of a fan are you that you want to buy me a beer?
Yeah, if you think I enjoy drinking together.
With Woody, like if a fan really wanted to get together with Woody, I feel like the right move would be like, hey, let's get together, Cold Stone Creamery on me, and then we're going to the fucking trail mix section of whatever store we're near, and you buy whatever you want.
Big Lots.
You want the one with the M&Ms? You want the one with the raisins? They're all yours, motherfucker. Like, that's the way you get Woody on one of these meetings. Give him some Cold Stone Creamery and a bunch of nuts and treats.
I'm going to pull the handle on the trail mix machine. You hold the bag, and you tell me when to let go.
And I'll let go 2 seconds after that.
And he does it like behind him, like it's a romantic comedy where he's holding his arm on.
He's got his arms around Woody, holding it. He's like whispers in his ear. That's a lot of cashews.
Woody's the guy at the cashew stand with a hefty flex bag attached to it. She can't take no more, Captain. She can do it. I'm taking take a phone more cashews.
Offering to buy Woody a beer is like someone saying to me, like, "Hey, let's hang out. I'll take you to Sunday Mass." Like,
it's like someone going to me, "Hey, you want a salad?" No.
It's not like any salads, like even the ones that have like tons of chicken in it and stuff.
Oh no, I was more just joking. Like, I eat salads with tons of chicken or salmon.
I didn't realize it. I learned like post 40.
Early on when I was on the road and I was still gave a shit about like kosher somewhat. So I wouldn't mix meat and milk. And my friends used to call that steak or shake.
Steak or shake.
So you can't have cheeseburgers in that world, huh?
Well, in that world, yeah. Now I don't give a fuck. I mean,
yeah. No, that's
I also
threw away that sheet with the hole in it, and now he's eating cheeseburgers.
The fact that you can't eat meat and cheese in the same sandwich. This is America. We need to make kosher eating illegal, or at least make them change that rule. That's absurd. You can't.
Here's the dumbest thing about that rule, by the way.
With that. That's not American.
So the dumbest thing about that rule, the reason for that rule, every law that has to do with being kosher comes from being either healthy or being humane. The idea of not mixing meat and milk had to do with the fact that people were eating off their own farm often, and the translation of it is you don't risk stewing a calf in the milk of its mother. That was the premise of it.
Yeah, that's dumb.
But it's even dumber because people were dumb enough to not understand, they then outlawed can't have cheese and chicken. It's like, but that's not about it. That doesn't come from there. But then you can have chicken and eggs.
So when I had my Tacoma's a smaller truck. I thought I was good at driving. I was like, I'm a good driver. I do everything I aspire to do. I'm not claiming to be a race car driver, but if I want the truck here, that's where it goes. Then I got a full-size truck. Now, I just warn people, like, buckle up. I'm not very good at this. This is going to be a problem. And thank God it has these, like, aerial cameras where if you're going slow, you get this, like, bird's eye view of what's happening. And that helps a ton. But I'm better now than I was 2 years ago. But it is a struggle. I don't always get it first time.
I think as vehicles have changed, they do need to change class of license. Like, if you don't know how to drive something bigger than a car, you shouldn't be allowed to drive something bigger than a car. Because I see people all the time who have no idea how fucking wide their truck is, and they're in 2 lanes, or they're parking across 3 spots, or like all this shit because they just don't understand how big their car is.
The more
like,
spots
you shouldn't be able to drive a car.
That one bugs me because so I'll pull in and I might be on the line or straddling it. But here's the trick.
Yeah,
they let you fix it. Right? You can take a second swipe at it if you want. I'll pull in and I'll be like, yeah, that one was kind of a 2 out of 10.
State law. One spot, one try. State law.
Yeah. No, you'll never find me parked badly, but you won't know that was the 4th try.
Did I ever tell you guys? I actually think that you can tell a lot about a person by how much they're willing to fix a bad parking job. Like, you can tell if someone's a decent human being because we all make that mistake. Every one of us, pulls into a spot with, it could be like a street spot where there's, room for 2 cars. You're too far from the driveway, whatever it is. Like, there's a million different ways to do that, but not fixing it is the shit part. And so I was, it was around the holidays and I had to go to a mall. I fucking hate going to a mall around the holidays. It's the worst. But there were no spots and we're driving around. And I see there's one spot. And this guy is parked as if he aimed for the middle line, like for the line in between to go in, like under his car. And I was really, really pissed. I'm waiting a while. Finally, another spot opens up. Pull in. This is when I was still married. And so I was like, I'm going to leave a note. And my ex was like, you don't really need to leave a note. I'm like, I'm just pissed. I'm going to write something nasty. I want to leave a note. And so I look in her glove box and she has the envelope from a parking ticket that she had gotten for an expired meter. And so I took that and I wrote the note on that and put it under his windshield. And it said, I hope this momentary panic that this gave you reminds you there are other people in the world. Do a better job next time, asshole. And I was so happy with it. Just the idea of that guy thinking he had a ticket in a fucking parking garage in a mall.
How afraid were you when you were putting it under the windshield wiper, though?
So scared. You have no fucking idea. I was terrified. I was shaking.
You're like, and she's watching too. This could go downhill real quick.
Like, can you block me as much as possible?
I've got a story about it. So when I worked at Cisco, there was a guy who did that every day. Now, my personal take on straddling spots is it's okay so long as you're not taking the prime real estate. If maybe you have a nice car, a new car, something that means a lot to you. So you park in the back and you take 2 spots so no one parks next to you. Knock yourself out. You're going to walk an extra 30 feet, but if it makes you feel better about your car not getting dinged, then cool. But that's not what this guy would do. He would come in and take the best spots available and he would take 2 of them. And I don't know, angry young Woody would see this every day and just get angrier and angrier and angrier. So I Googled for ideas, and the best one I saw was to start putting bird seed around the person's car. and on the person's car. So the birds would shit on the car and loiter around the car, and eventually train birds to just like hang out on this person's car. And I'm like, I wholeheartedly approve of this idea. I even bought the bird seed. Now, I may have done it once or twice, but he stopped. He actually didn't stop taking spots, but he started moving. But yeah, I was totally prepared to bird seed this fucker every day until the birds thought his car was the hangout spot. Like a
By the
statue.
way, Angry Young Woody is a great name for a band. That is an excellent band.
Ooh, I hadn't even thought of that angle on it. But yeah, I like it.
I also don't get the people who will like fight for a parking spot in front of a gym because like you're there to work out and you can't walk an extra 30 feet.
On the other hand, the walk back is brutal. I feel like the harder your workout is, the better spot you should earn. Right? They should watch you and be like, Steve, I've noticed the extra effort you're putting in. We're moving your car up front.
Yeah, they just slowly bring it back.
Yeah, this is
an excellent system. I think this is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Some like yoked guy comes in after parking in the back. You're like, sir, no, you're right at the front. You're right at the front. This big fat guy, first day of the gym, he's in the back. He gets the benefit of a little extra cardio on the way in.
I hear where you're coming from. Yeah. It's not crazy.
Wait, are you arguing for non-handicap spots? Like you're for able-bodied
I'm arguing for able-bodied spots.
Like,
and 90% of the front part of every gym is that.
I think the employee...
It's blue writing on the parking spot, and it's just a guy laughing at a wheelchair. Like,
yeah, no, it's a guy overhead pressing and throwing a person in a wheelchair towards a different spot. Is overhead pressing a wheelchair. That's what you want. Or actually, you have their 1 rep maxes on there where it's like, I can park here. I can bench 430 pounds. It's like, well, sir, I believe you. Or if somebody's like snipes in and they go, squat 500. I don't think so, ma'am. To the back. And that would help everyone. Because most people can't do lifts like that. Even like people who are super into lifting for years and years and years. Really, what it would end up being would be like a bunch of empty spots and then a bunch of full spots. You know what? Now this system is falling apart, Woody. I'm starting to second guess it.
There should be
but it's also similar to that. Like
valets at the gym who observe your workouts and move your car closer, the better you do. Right? Like maybe you get in there, you warm it up, and they're like, fuck this guy. He's going to be a walker. And by the end, when you're doing your massive farmer's carries, your car's in the front window. That's the system I approve of.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, you go in and you do one of those things where you like you just stretch the whole time. You're not working out. You get out and you're like, why is my car parked in Oklahoma? Like, what the fuck?
Bonus for
leg
day.
You did fake yoga in the middle of the track. That's why.
I saw that though. There was once I was at a restaurant in some small town in Idaho. We're just on our way to a gig, and we stop in this teeny little town. Probably population of 10,000, and they're in front of the restaurant. There are 3 spots for Purple Heart Award winners. And
That's too many spots.
I was like, how many Purple Hearts have been given out, let alone live in this fucking town? Like they're. I just don't understand, like, how much do they think that this is going to make them seem patriotic, that they're like, you know what, only Purple Heart winners can eat at this restaurant. Then they go out of business in 3 weeks. They're like, oh, we have miscalculated a great deal.
At Cisco, they had so many handicap spots, right? Now, I work here, and I know that there really aren't that many handicap people. Like, they were always empty. And there's more than you're thinking right now. There might have been like 38 handicap spots. And of course, it's the best 38 spots at this building. And by the way, the lot would fill up, right? Sometimes you wouldn't even be able to park at your own building. If you were late, you'd have to like park at someone else's building. And it's like, motherfuckers, are we hosting the Special Olympics on a daily basis here with 32 handicap spots? Like, what is this?
You know how you can get in trouble for parking in handicap parking?
Uh-huh.
You cannot get in trouble for parking an expectant mother.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
That's a little life pro tip for listeners out there. You can't get in trouble for parking an expectant mother.
So wait.
Even if you're just...
Yeah, what if you have a beard and you're like you?
That's not a protected group. Fuck out of here.
Taylor, you going to try and pull off expecting?
Who's going to call someone out on that? You know what I would think if I saw some single guy parking an expectant mother? I'd be like, That's really funny. I should have thought of that. What are they going to do?
I'm trying to remember who it was. There was a comic who had a bit about how he was hooking up in his car and a cop like taps on the window and he thought he was gonna get like some ticket for lewd behavior, but it turned out they had parked in an expected mother spot. And he was like, well, give me a minute. I can't think of who it was. Fuck.
No, that's a good joke. I like that. Yeah, parking as a whole is out of control. It's become too complicated.
I wonder if
cut all
Taylor's
the handicap spots in half. Purple Heart winner spots apparently cut it in a third. You know, how often are you going to even have one there? I've never seen Purple Heart parking.
I've never.
I get it. If they're like, hey, Jim won a Purple Heart, we should have a spot for him. Then that's Jim's spot. You don't have to fucking say why. You just put his name on it. It'd be fine.
You know what I like?
Yeah,
Employee of the Month parking. I feel like someone has gone above and beyond at their job, doing it the best that it can be done, and they get a special parking spot. I really respect that guy.
You know what's even more incentivizing than that? Worst employee of the month parking. Which is way the fuck away. It's like by a train station on the wrong side of the tracks. And he's like, God, I really should have taken my calls more seriously. I'm sorry, you're a worst employee park. You're off Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Murder Street.
I looked it up. There have been 1.8 million Purple Hearts given out, so maybe there were 3 in that town. But although a lot of those guys have died at this point,
given out total
anymore.
Ever. Because most of those
that's somewhere healing up.
Do you get a Purple Heart if you die?
I don't know.
No. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, if you you get that in, you get something on top of that.
See, that's bullshit, though.
What'd you say, Taylor?
You get the. Maybe I'm wrong. I think if you die in combat, you both get the Purple Heart, and there's some other medal for like dying valor or something like that. You get if you actually die. I might be wrong.
Look, I don't think you should get a medal if you died.
Okay, Trump.
Just for dying?
For soldiers to make it home just fine.
They said in 1962 they changed it so that you can get a Purple Heart after you die. So maybe 3 spots is too many. I'm back in the original.
See, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. If you get wounded and live, all right, that's an accomplishment. You fought through it. But if you just die, I mean,
there's got to be some sort of valor in it also. You can't just...
There's no achievement in Call of Duty for dying.
Yes, there are.
What if you die?
We named the show after it.
What? That's not an achievement, though.
They don't give you a Purple Heart. You just
give them a death streak. Put a painkiller fucking emblem on their tomb or something. But don't give them. I guess they're not gonna get special parking if they're dead.
Show name means?
Jesus Christ!
Hey, you park the hearse right here.
Wait, what? What does the show name mean? I just like.
You don't want to know.
What was the name of that?
It's super nerdy. It's a thing from a video game. It's fine.
All right, I have 2 stories. One is kind of a "Am I the asshole today? I fucked up." It's about beans. It was popular 3 months ago, so some people may have heard it.
Woody, before you do this, just a quick technical note. I noticed my camera has been blipping a little bit. Has that been bad? Is that just on?
Now and then you get a little stuttery, but your audio is pretty good, so that's the bigger thing.
Just checking. Cool.
And the other one is an 8-year-old thing that no one's heard about with like a football injury. Do you want to do the beans one or the other one?
What's the
I'll let Kyle
injury?
pick. Kyle, you there?
Yes, I am.
Beans or injury?
Injury.
Okay.
My beans.
We can do beans later, maybe, or another show.
I'm saying combine them. Find a way to combine them, Woody. Put them in one story.
So I went deep in this Reddit rabbit hole today and found an 8-year-old post that this guy created about a dramatic event, and it just sunk in my head, and I thought I'd share it. Here we go. Last semester at a certain college, I was assaulted by a football player walking around where he was trying to drive. By the way, it's important that the person telling the story is a guy. He weighs 120 pounds, so I had it wrong for a bit.
Is he really a guy then?
He was 325 pounds. I was 120 pounds. And while unconscious on the ground, I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady, and she made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years, we got married, and almost immediately, she bore me a daughter. I had a great job. My wife didn't have to work outside the house. When my daughter was 2, she bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs, and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Something just wasn't right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch, only to use the bathroom at first, and soon I stopped that too, as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at that fucking lamp for 3 days before my wife got worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time, my cognizance was breaking up, and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp isn't real. The house isn't real. My wife, my kids, none of that's real. The last 10 years of my life are not fucking real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper, and still has inverted dimensions. It took upon my entire perspective, and all I could see is red. I heard voices, screams, and all other kinds of weird noises before I became aware of the pain. A fucking shit ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and I opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point, a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass, and threw me into the back of the cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. It seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive, and given CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving for the loss of my wife and children and the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. And then he goes on to talk about it, but basically this guy got hit by a football player, has 10 years of imaginary memories where he had a wife and kids, and then he came back too. And he goes on to say, I've had personal messages describing similar experiences and 3 posters saying that such experiences are impossible. Yeah, so he's depressed. He lost his wife and kids that he never really had. It just fucking sunk in with me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that. And I think even if any of that had happened, he really dodged a bullet by getting out of that whole wife and kids thing.
Also, what a dumb wife to wait 3 days before she was concerned about him staring at a lamp and not eating.
Yeah, maybe she could have pulled you back if she'd noticed a little earlier, you dumb fuck. Maybe watch where you're going next time. Nah, I don't believe any of that.
Post history is like the post before it is just be like, hey, can you guys recommend a good junior high school in the area? Like,
I'm checking out his post.
I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Well, look, it's well written. It's an interesting story, but basically what he's saying is, I got hit. I had a dream, and because it was such a vivid dream, I'm now sad it's not real.
Yes.
We've all had vivid dreams that were sad aren't real. I dreamt I won the fucking World Series. It's not like I woke up and be like, I mourn the loss of my baseball career every day.
Yeah, but what he's describing,
I can't pitch.
What he's describing is extreme time dilation, which I don't think is possible to that degree. I think Pardon?
Inception. You just got to keep going dream within a dream, and then you're fine.
Essentially, yeah. Like Inception's silly, but the idea of time dilation is a real thing. It's factual. Like, I'm sure you've had that thing where you just kind of fell asleep for 10 or 20 minutes, but it seemed like you were having a really long dream. And I think normally we have no idea how long. Like, we might have a dream that goes on for a long time that we're doing the dreaming thing, that we're conscious of the dream. But you wake up and you're like, I wonder how long I was actually dreaming. Like, if someone was on the outside running a stopwatch, I bet it was different in the stopwatch in my mind. And it is. It absolutely is. But not to the point where lying on the sidewalk before someone can render aid, you experience 10 years of memories. Like, does this guy remember any news reports from 10 years of our future? Like, is there anything like that? Like, of
I
course
wouldn't
not.
think so.
Right?
No, it's just a memory that's implanted while he was unconscious.
He actually remembered the stock market and what happened with it, and
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he thinks this really happened, but I think he mourns the loss as if it were real.
Oh, well, that's even sadder if he knows it. Like, I was under the impression that he was suggesting that, for all intents and purposes, while it wasn't real, he didn't go to another dimension per se, but he did experience these things, and therefore they are real, right? Like, if you fell in love with a woman, like he had a whole courting process that he described, where he had to like win her over and beat out other suitors, and then 2 children. He's talking about 10 years of memories. I don't buy any of that. It'd be a cool Twilight Zone though.
I stick with what I said. I don't know. I think my interpretation's on target. I think that he woke up, realized it was all just a dream, but it hurt just as much. And
I've experienced that.
I agree with the time dilation point that Kyle made. Like, I've had super vivid dreams. I have a tendency to dream very, very vividly sometimes. And like, I'll wake up and remember the whole fucking thing. And over the course of, probably the last 20 minutes I was sleeping for real, because, you're not dreaming that the whole, 6 hours you're sleeping, or in Kyle's case, 8 to 12. But like the idea of that dream, and maybe a dream might take a couple days. Like, I've had dreams where it's happened over the course of a couple days. 10 fucking years of every moment in that, like, I do not think that part's possible.
Yeah. I take a supplement that helps with lucid dreaming, and it actually has worked, because almost every night now I have these really intense, cool dreams.
Is it for lucid dreams? Like,
yeah.
Do you take a supplement so you can have more interesting dreams?
Yeah.
Oh. It's not like a side effect of a supplement for some other reason.
I mean, it's a sleep aid, but the whole thing is it says lucid dreams on the front. It's Derek from More Plates, More Dates. It's his company. It's Gorilla Dream, I think is what it's called. I think it's called Gorilla Dream.
The first time I read, when I was a kid, I read about lucid dreams, and in the thing that I read, it talked about how like they realized they were dreaming, so they decided to fly. And that has stuck with me so much that every single time I've ever had a lucid dream, I fly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing I do, because that is so buried in my mind. Like, I associate that with lucid dreaming, and I'm never able, as I'm waking up, I go lower and lower. Like, I can't fly high. I can only go like maybe 10 feet. And then as I'm waking up, I'm kind of gliding a little bit. Like I can't keep it up. And I realize I'm waking up, and that's how it works. But like, I never do anything in lucid dreams but fly. It's ridiculous.
I almost always fly, and I often rape.
I used to have lucid dreams where I could fly. And when I was a kid, I was great at it. And the only thing is you had to like concentrate really hard to fly. That was like the thing. And sometimes I wasn't able to muster that level of concentration, but mostly I could. And as I got older, this is like, up until 10 or 8 or something, I slowly lost the ability to focus enough to fly. And I think like what Peter actually happened was, maybe I was copying the story, but in my head, I had this idea that as I learned that you can't fly, that slowly became even my dreams reality.
Interesting. Yeah. And so when I'm having a fully lucid dream, and I mean, it's to the point where I have the full where I'm standing there and I say, okay, I am in a dream. I am asleep, but while I'm really asleep in bed, I am in a dream right now. And I can make this like the Matrix if I want to, if I really concentrate. What do I want to do? But sometimes it's in between. It's like, I think I'm in a dream, but I'm not sure. And I need to be sure before I get to raping, because there's going to be consequences. And so like, Steve's not loving this. So I'll pinch myself. But the problem is, at this point, I can feel pain in my dreams now. And so I'm oh, that's Well, she couldn't at first, but if I concentrate real hard, she can.
I'm not.
What?
I refuse for this to be the end. You will not see me laughing at this story at all.
So, I'll pinch myself and I'll try to determine if it's a dream. But the problem is, like, now I'll feel pain and I'll be like, well, that did hurt, but did it hurt like it normally hurts? I don't know. I don't pinch myself a lot in real life, I don't remember what. Yeah. And then I'll be like, well, I need some more serious pain here. So I'll stab myself or bite myself, like really try to hurt myself. And then I'll be like,
shouldn't that be enough of an indication that it's a dream that you're willing to stab yourself?
I need to be sure before I get to raping Taylor. I've been to prison before.
You really dot all your I's and cross all your T's in a situation like this.
Look,
you know what? I was a fool to ask initially. You're right.
Thank you. Go cloacal kiss somebody. You need to be sure.
This whole thing right now is a dream.
It is not a dream.
Might be.
Because that hurt quite a bit when I pinched myself. I don't know why I didn't mime pinching myself. I literally did pinch myself, and it made no sense. Actually, when I was pinching myself, when I just pinched myself, I didn't feel like it hurt enough, and I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
If I'm dreaming, why would I have Steve on the show? Of all people.
It's a nightmare.
Book someone better.
Yeah. If this were Kyle's dream, it would be Woody and I wouldn't be here. It would be like him, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who else? Who else
4
would be
frames
on here?
of just Kyle.
See, Woody knows. Woody knows.
Kyle 1, that was a fantastic joke, and I loved it. Oh, thank you, Kyle 3.
Can I do that? Have we done the beans and the girlfriend story?
We haven't. With bated breath, I await.
Yes,
I promise you.
Beans.
I think it's gonna exceed your expectations.
Okay, no, I don't have low expectations. I'm very.
Oh well,
curious.
I take it back then. Now it won't. All right, so here it is. Today I fucked up by demanding that my girlfriend show me where she buried the beans in the woods. All right.
Oh, God.
I admit I posted a version of this relationship in the relationship subreddit the other day, but they closed it with no explanation. Yada yada yada. With all that going on, all right, I'm sorry, let me start over. I assume because they decided it was fake. I can see how they might think that, but this is true. This is a thing that happened and is happening, and now there's more to it. I actually got broken up with it. With all that going on,
I know I'm interrupting this on purpose. Every time someone starts a story that way, that's how I know it's true. Yes,
with all that going on, we had stocked up on supplies, including some canned goods. I ordered a few weeks ago and 30 cans of beans. 10 black beans, 10 kidney beans, and 10 are pink beans. I also ordered 15 cans of chickpeas. I thought this would be a reasonable amount of beans and chickpeas to have every now and then. It would last for some time. This is 3 months ago. It's coronavirus stocking up.
Okay.
However, earlier this week, I opened the cabinet because I wanted to make a vegetarian chili using 2 cans of beans. All of the beans were gone. What the hell? So I asked my girlfriend, and she told me she buried all of the beans in the woods. At first, I thought she was joking, but she explained no. She had buried these beans in the woods. What the fuck? I asked her to explain, and she told me that she was afraid that if things get bad, we might have to worry about looters or whatever, and that the beans would be in danger of being stolen. I thought that was completely ridiculous and unlikely, and she got angry at me and said she's protecting our beans. According to her logic, the beans are safely buried in the woods behind our apartment complex, and if we ever need to get some beans, we'll go to the stash, dig up a can or two, but I'd prefer it if we could save them, just in case things get worse. I said, why only bury the beans? Why not bury our more valuable items? She said the canned food was our most valuable item for long-term means, and that since we have fresh food and online grocery deliveries, it would make sense to continue to stockpile more beans. She intends to go bury more beans in the woods every week. This was too insane for me, and I got really upset. I demanded that we go to where the beans are buried, and she refused to tell me. She said that if I knew she was afraid I would dig up the beans. And I said, damn right I would dig up the beans. And she said, I will never jeopardize the beans. So the following day, I tried to put my foot down. I'm not usually a foot downer, but there are rare issues where compromise is out of the question. And I foolishly decided that this was one of those issues. I demanded to know where the beans were buried. And I told her that if she was going to bury the beans I paid for in the woods, that I would move out. We fought about it, and I kept insisting. In hindsight, I should have just let it go and created my own hidden stash of beans in the apartment and given her time to cool down about this bean buying scenario. But I blew it all out of proportion. And it's weird to bury the beans in the woods, but why do I have to press it? What's the harm at the end of the day? In the grand scheme of things, but I kept demanding her to take me to the beans or at least draw a map or something.
Take me to the beans.
Finally, she broke up with me over the beans. I've lost the love of my life because I couldn't let the damn beans go. I am in disbelief. She has moved out. Now, I am not only heartbroken, but I'm now paying full rent instead of 50%, which is a huge
and you're
financial
fresh out of
issue.
beans.
Too long, didn't read.
Lost her.
I
More
kept demanding
importantly,
that my
45
girlfriend showed me where she buried the beans in the woods, and she got so angry at me, she ended our relationship and moved out. My heart is shattered, and my finances are jeopardized because of a bean hoard.
No, fuck that bean whore. Fuck that bean burying bitch. All right? This is nonsense. Women have no concept of what fucking society falling apart is. There's gonna be so much rape. It always comes back to rape. Those beans are not going to be what they're looking for. You're going to wish that you had left the beans in the house.
They're going to be looking for your bean.
Yeah, they're going to be. So you're going to wish that there were more beans in the house so they'd have something to do other than rape
something
you
else
more.
to flick.
That's what they're going to be flicking is your beans, bitch. And your husband's going to be dead in the gutter with an empty stomach because you buried the beans.
And you know what she definitely didn't do? She definitely didn't bury the beans in the correct way. She definitely just threw cans of beans in the ground and threw dirt on top of it. It's like, bitch, those beans are going to be ruined so fast that dirt's going to eat right through them. Come on, be smart.
6 months.
Be smart when you bury your beans.
Those beans were already ruined if this was the beginning of quarantine. Already ruined. The labels have peeled right off. You don't know what kind of beans you're getting.
Dude, if I came home one day, any day, and my girlfriend had hidden a huge amount of food in the woods, that would be an immediate problem. It wouldn't be we're going to see how this plays out. It would be what the fuck are you doing burying beans in the woods, you retard?
We go back to
what?
To Kyle's complaint that you won't know what beans they are in case you're making your post-apocalyptic chili. And
he's unearthing a can and he's like, is this it? No. It's already full up on Pinto. Fuck.
There's a follow-up to this story. There's a subreddit that I had never heard of called R Metal Detecting, where they got all enthusiastic and they're like, dude, I'll help you find those beans. No, I'll help you find these beans. And these metal detector enthusiasts offered to help him find his beans, which I think is great.
I need an update. Did they find the goddamn beans?
I don't know.
How many maybe I missed it because as the story got better and better, I was like, wait, what? I really got tuned in.
30 cans of beans.
Holy shit!
45 cans if you include the chickpeas.
That's so many beans.
I don't know. How big is a can of beans? I'm picturing like tuna fish.
Dude, this bitch can go fuck herself.
No,
that's so many beans to go
hide. A can of beans is this big. It's like a soda can.
Okay.
Yeah, but 49 of those?
45.
What I'm saying is 40 or 50 cans of beans is a huge amount of beans.
Of course. And she stole them for herself.
Look, I'm so
weirdest
petty.
thing.
I'm so petty, and I get so
frustrated. You want it for yourself? Bilbo Baggins.
I'll tell you what I would have done, and I'm not even kidding. I would have called the law. I would have called the fucking police, and I would have told them, first I get some evidence, right? I text message her, hey, about those beans that you took out of the cabinet and hid. I paid for those. Can we at least both agree upon that? She's like, well, yeah, you paid for them. Okay. I feel like I should know where they are. Will you tell me right now where the beans are? No,
You're
I
setting
can't
up a
do
bean
that.
sting.
I'm setting her up. I'm setting her up. This is a bean sting. All right. Then I call Johnny Law. All right. And when he shows up, I show him the text messages from the bean bandit. And one of two things is going to happen. Either she's going to lead us to the burial site of said beans, or she's going to jail.
Or third option, the cops will laugh at you and possibly shoot you for doing that.
I'm white. Okay.
Just laugh.
But what if they also had a loved one steal their beans? You haven't considered that.
Oh, they could be being sympathetic.
We've seen this before, sir.
I've called the
Just
cops.
step
I called
outside.
the cops
We'll take it from here.
when shit was stolen off my porch and I had the person's face on video. I called the cops and they were like, "We don't care. Not gonna 45 cans of beans. I don't give a fuck."
I mean, that's a very cheap thing, but think about the future.
Oh, yeah,
What I was
beans.
thinking that you were going to say, Woody, is that this chick was going to try and plant cooked beans
That's funny too.
in the woods,
That's
and
even
that would have been
Still in the can.
infuriating.
Like the whole can? Like she's not even bothering to open the can. No, she's just putting the can in the ground, thinking a whole, like a tree
Life
that's
finds
gonna
a way, and then cans of beans
cans
come
of
off the
beans
trees.
hanging, and
Kyle,
then reach up
Kyle,
and
the
pluck
thing
them off
is-
like apples.
If you open up the can and you plant it, you get beans. But if you plant the entire can, you get a canned tree. So it's much
just
more
an
efficient.
enormous can comes out of the ground.
An enormous can with canned branches that then later have cans of beans coming down from them.
Science.
So it's
Alright.
actually much smarter.
Yeah, Kyle, what are you,
Yeah,
science tonight?
I hate that woman. I hate anyone that's that stupid, regardless of their sex. And he's better off because look, if she was planting beans today, God knows what she's gonna be doing in a few years. One of the dumbest things my mom ever did, and we almost left her right then. I'm kidding. But I remember when 9/11 happened, she put a bunch of gallons of water in the basement. And I was down there, like that's where Dad and I's like reloading bench was, where we reloaded ammunition and did that stuff. And I noticed there was like 8 gallons of water over, under the stairs that lead down to the basement. And I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "I don't know. That's weird, huh?" I was like, "We get wake upstairs, Mom. There's a bunch of gallons of water downstairs. What's that about?" She's like, "In case the terrorist attack." And I'm like, describe
Well,
this
8 gallons ought to do us through. Yeah.
I'm like, describe this hypothetical attack. And keep in mind, I'm 18 at the time? No, I'm like 16 at the time. I'm like, describe this hypothetical attack in which we really need 8 gallons of water to survive. Well, I guess they attacked the tiny town of Livonia, Georgia, and population 8,000.
First the chicken farms. No, first the Twin Towers, then the chicken farms.
Then the chicken farms. They're coming right for us.
Georgia, then New York.
And I was like, okay. Well, let's just say that happens. That they organize, that they hijack more planes and crash more jetliners into our small town. How does that take our water away that we already have? She's like, well, I was like, because we have a well. You know this. We have a well
In a generator.
with enormous amounts
Crash
of water.
into the well.
How many beans had she purchased?
She said, maybe the water gets poisoned. And I'm like, well, they're poisoning wells now? Because they're really bringing it to the little guy. if they're just like stumbling around in the scariest place in the world for a man in a fucking turban, by the way, the deep south of the United States, walking through the woods, I guess, looking for rural areas that live on wells and then poisoning the wells one at a time with, I don't know, a bucket of battery acid. Like,
No, listen, Ahmed. It is so retarded they will never suspect.
I felt retarded
It
with
is
my
the
own
worst
plan.
tactical plan. They will never defend against the worst possible option. We will attack Georgia towns of population. I don't know what accent it is now, but it's clearly something different. But we will go after Georgia towns of population 10,000 or lower.
Tell me if I over.
We will
So
steal their beans.
In fairness, if they did that, people would be fucking terrified. Like, if you're trying to scare a population, You go after a small town because every small town will think that they're next.